Welcome. Today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating question.
Yeah, we're asking how ancient wisdom and, well, modern science challenge how we think about AI in healthcare.
Exactly. What do these, really old ideas and these cutting-edge discoveries actually mean for the future of medicine?
And this deep dive, it pulls from a truly unique research paper. It's amazing. It weaves together AI and healthcare, Taoist philosophy,
And quantum mechanics.
and quantum mechanics, yeah. So we'll be pulling out the key nuggets to help you understand where medical AI is now and where it might go, but through this really unusual lens.
Okay, so our goal here is to get why this sort of purely mechanistic view of the body might actually clash.
Right, clash with age-old wisdom and cutting-edge science.
And what does that mean for patient care down the line? Let's get into it.
Okay.
So let's start with what's happening right now. I mean, AI is transforming healthcare. It's happening fast.
Oh, absolutely. You see it everywhere. Predictive diagnostics, robotic surgery.
Yeah, streamlining things, boosting efficiency, maybe reducing human error. That's the promise.
That's the big promise. And these technologies, they really operate on one core idea. More data equals better outcomes.
More knowledge, more certainty, more control.
Exactly. Control. The assumption underneath it all is that the human body, well, it can be modeled perfectly.
Like a machine?
Precisely. That its future can be predicted, that healing can be engineered. It treats the body like something you measure, optimize, control.
And it really values things like linear cause and effect, stats, efficiency.
Efficiency above almost everything else, yeah.
And we see this in action already, like machine learning predicting if someone's likely to be readmitted to hospital.
Or identifying patients at risk for sepsis, detecting cancers on scans.
And sometimes these models, they actually do better than human doctors at certain specific tasks. It sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing. And in some ways, it is. But there's definitely a flip side.
Okay, what's the catch?
Well, there are significant challenges. Big ones. First, the AI models. They're trained on huge data sets.
Right.
And those data sets, they can have biases baked right in, real-world biases.
And there's the transparency issue too, right? The black box problem.
Exactly. Many of these tools operate as black boxes. Clinicians, doctors, they often can't see how the AI reached its conclusion. Davenport and Calicotta pointed this out back in 2019. The inner workings are just inscrutable.
But wait, if the AI is better sometimes, say, at spotting early cancer, isn't there a case for just trusting it, even if we don't know exactly how it works? How do you weigh that opacity risk against potentially saving lives?
That's the huge ethical tightrope, and it leads to what some call a dangerous epistemological shift.
Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
It means a fundamental change in how we even understand what's true in medicine. Doctors are pushed to trust outputs they can't really interpret, and for patients, it's maybe even deeper. They risk being reduced to data shadows.
Data shadows.
Yeah, seen less as a whole person, with a story, and more as just a collection of data points, probabilities.
So it squeezes out things like uncertainty,
Yeah.
intuition, the patient's own story.
Precisely, all that messy human stuff gets diminished, which really sets the stage for why we need other perspectives.
Okay, so if that's the mechanistic view, with his promises and his problems,
Yeah.
where else can we look? You mentioned ancient wisdom.
Yes, specifically Taoism. It offers this really profound counterpoint, a caution against relying too much on control.
How so?
Well, there's a great quote from Lao Tzu. Trying to control the future is like trying to take the place of the master carpenter. If you do, you'll likely cut your own hand.
Wow, okay, that's a vivid image. But for people used to making data-driven decisions, doesn't that sound a bit passive? Just responding to what emerges. How does that work in, say, an emergency room?
It's not about passivity, really. It's about a kind of deep humility.
Yeah.
Lao Tzu actually says, not knowing is wisdom.
Not knowing is wisdom. That sounds counterintuitive for medicine.
It does. He says, to know that you do not know is the best. To pretend to know when you do not is a disease.
Okay.
So it's not about being ignorant. It's about recognizing the limits of our models, our attempts to force reality into neat boxes when it's actually dynamic and, well, messy.
So it's more like a humble participatory relationship with the world, valuing being present over predicting everything, flow over force.
Exactly. Presence over prediction, flow over force, response over resistance. It's a huge shift from that predict and control AI mindset we talked about.
And this is where the concept of wu wei comes in.
Yes, wu wei. It's often translated as non-action, but that's a bit misleading. It's more like effortless action, or attuned action.
Effortless action.
Moving in harmony with life's rhythms, like water flowing around a rock. In medicine, wu-wei could look like attentive non-intervention, meaning knowing when not to intervene, when to step back, not rush to fix everything immediately, facilitating the body's own wisdom, the spirit's wisdom. Think of a traditional Chinese doctor helping restore balance, not forcing one specific result, like guiding a river, not damming it.
Okay, I see the tension now. Because AI models, they kind of do want to impose a fixed narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the data. It's like naming the nameless, turning a dynamic life into a static prediction.
That's a great way to put it. It turns a process into an object. Lao Tzu even talks about two kinds of knowledge. He says, in the pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired.
Which is totally the AI approach. Get more data, acquire knowledge.
Right. But then he says, in the pursuit of the way, every day something is dropped.
Dropped, like letting go.
Exactly. Taoism invites us to explore that intuitive wisdom, the wisdom of letting go of the need to solve everything, to just dwell in the complexity, the uncertainty.
But just to be clear, this isn't about ditching science or technology, is it?
Not at all. It's about reframing it. Seeing these powerful predictive tools as maybe temporary companions, tools that have to respect that living systems are fundamentally unpredictable.
Like that other quote you mentioned. The way is like an empty vessel.
Precisely. The way is like an empty vessel, used but never filled. Knowledge needs to stay porous, open, never thinking it's got the final answer.
Okay, that's a profound challenge from ancient philosophy. Now, quantum mechanics. How on earth does that fit in?
Well, it's fascinating because quantum mechanics did to physics what Taoism does to our ideas of control. It completely shattered the old deterministic view of the universe.
The classical view where everything was predictable if you just knew enough, like clockwork.
Exactly like clockwork, which, interestingly, sounds a lot like that mechanistic AI paradigm we started with. Quantum mechanics blew that up.
With things like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Right. At the very heart of it, Heisenberg showed that you fundamentally cannot know certain pairs of things perfectly at the same time, like a particle's exact position and its exact momentum.
The more you know one, the less you know the other.
And crucially, this isn't because our measuring tools aren't good enough. It's baked into the fabric of reality itself. It's a feature, not a bug.
And then there's superposition, where particles are in multiple states at once until you look.
Until you measure, yeah. Then it sort of picks a state. It collapses into one outcome, like that spinning coin idea. It's both heads and tails until it lands. Mind-bending stuff.
Truly.
And Heisenberg himself said something really interesting here. He said, what we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning.
Wait, that sounds almost Taoist. Like saying, trying to grasp the way makes it disappear.
Doesn't it? Just like the Tao gets obscured if you try too hard to define it, quantum reality itself seems to evade certainty through the very act of us looking, of us questioning. You can't fully capture it, only engage with it probabilistically.
Probabilistically, so not definite answers, just odds, like rolling dice.
Yeah, kind of, but even weirder. That's where the Born rule comes in. It tells us quantum outcomes are governed by probabilities, the chance of finding the particle here or there, doing this or that. The universe at its deepest level seems to be a field of potential, of possibilities, not a set of foregone conclusions.
Okay, so if fundamental physics, the very basis of reality, is uncertain and probabilistic,
then how can we possibly expect AI models, however complex, to predict incredibly complicated living systems, biology, human lives, social interactions with absolute certainty?
yeah, that's a huge question.
And there's even this field, quantum biology.
Quantum biology.
Yeah, research suggesting that some basic life processes, like photosynthesis, how enzymes work, might actually rely on these quantum effects. Quantum weirdness might be essential for life.
So uncertainty isn't just a limitation, it might be part of how life works.
It could be a fundamental condition of life itself, almost like a design feature, you could say.
Which makes the whole deterministic predict and control approach of some AI seem, well, maybe overconfident.
Overconfident, maybe even ethically questionable. Because if we only focus on what we can measure and predict statistically, we risk ignoring all those other crucial aspects of healing, the relational parts, the mysteries, the things that just emerge.
Wow, so it really does converge. Taoism, quantum physics, different paths, but they both seem to teach that the harder you grip reality, the more it slips away.
Exactly. The real task isn't to conquer uncertainty. It's maybe to learn how to dance with it, to partner with it.
Okay, so if that's the case, if the universe is probabilistic, if wisdom involves letting go of control, what does this mean for healthcare technology, especially AI?
It means we need a pretty radical shift, I think, a shift in how we even design these AI systems.
Away from just maximizing certainty.
Yes, rejecting certainty as the ultimate goal. Instead, we need to cultivate systems that are, well, relational, responsive, and genuinely respectful of the unknown.
That sounds big, like more than just a technical fix.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's almost a spiritual problem, not just a technical one.
Mm.
How do we embed humility into our algorithms?
Humility in algorithms, that's a concept.
Yeah.
You mentioned power through softness earlier, referencing Lao Tzu.
Yes, that quote. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. Maybe the most advanced AI isn't the one with the most definitive answer.
But the one that helps us navigate the ambiguity, helps doctors see the nuances, the unknowns, the possibilities.
Precisely. That's reimagining AI, not as this final diagnostic authority handing down verdicts.
But as a dialogical partner, something that helps conversation, illuminates ambiguity instead of hiding it.
Exactly. Imagine AI that prominently displays confidence intervals, basically, how sure or unsure it is. Systems where clinicians can literally ask, okay, what don't we know here?
And get meaningful, probabilistic answers back, not just a single number.
Right. Or an AI that helps frame a diagnosis not as some fixed label, but as a dynamic process, maybe showing multiple potential paths forward based on different factors.
And you mentioned training AI differently too, not just on outcomes,
Yeah.
but on the spaces between.
Yeah, think about those moments in clinical life. The pauses, the times a patient refuses a treatment, those unexpected recoveries, all the human variables that are hard to quantify.
The moments of wu-wei.
Those moments of wu-wei, exactly, where not acting or allowing space for not knowing is actually crucial. What if we trained AI to recognize and value those moments, not just the data points?
So this leads to what you called an ethic of flow.
Right. Grounded in maybe 3 core principles. First, humility.
Knowing that knowledge is always incomplete. Participatory, like Lao Tzu. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know.
Exactly. Second, relationality. Medicine isn't just fixing a problem, it's a dialogue between lives, between experiences.
And third,
Attunement. Training our systems and ourselves to listen differently, to listen to the body maybe more like a wave than a machine.
observing without reducing. Assisting without dominating.
That's the idea, assisting without dominating.
And this feels urgent, doesn't it? As AI gets deeper and deeper into healthcare systems, EHRs, triage, diagnostics.
It's incredibly urgent. Because if we don't consciously choose this different ethic, we risk defaulting to the easy values. Speed, efficiency, optimization.
Values that might serve the system, but maybe not always the person.
That's the danger. Which leads to that provocative question. What if we trained AI not for dominance, but for resonance?
Resonance.
Yeah. Not to predict the future perfectly, but to sit alongside the patient's unfolding present, acknowledging the uncertainty. Because if reality is this interactive field shaped by how we observe it, by our attention,
Then our best technologies should honor that, not try to erase it.
they have to honor it.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've journeyed from AI's drive for control through Taoist wisdom on flow to quantum uncertainty.
And they all seem to point, despite their huge differences, to this core truth. The world isn't really meant to be mastered, controlled, fixed like a machine.
It's more like something to be engaged with, like a wave to be met.
Beautifully put, like a wave to be met. Lao Tzu says, the way is always at ease. It overcomes without competing. And quantum mechanics shows us ambiguity right down at the smallest scales. Our own involvement in seeing is key.
And the ethical weight here is, well, it's heavy. Not everything in medicine can be solved,
Right.
or even should be.
Right. Predictive AI, if we're not careful, could push healthcare towards just measurement over meaning, focusing only on what fits the algorithm.
But embracing the wave, as you put it,
Yeah.
building systems that can sit with uncertainty, that listen, that support.
That opens the door to something maybe truer. Healing isn't just a destination, it's a movement, a dance.
A dance between the patient, the provider, the technology, the mind.
Exactly, all of it.
So the final thought for you, listening, is maybe to embrace that unpredictability. Not see it as a failure of our systems, but maybe as an invitation.
An invitation to wisdom, to humility, to being human. Remember Lao Tzu again, the soft overcomes the hard, the slow overcomes the fast.
So the future isn't just faster algorithms.
Maybe the real future lies in greater sensitivity, the nuance to paradox, to the space between knowing and not knowing. Because maybe the way isn't a path you follow, it's the movement itself.